like that. That's good. All right, welcome to the How to Swadge panel.
Doing intros here. My name's Adam. I did most of the firmware work for the Swadge. Is this thing on?
There. Sorry.
All right.
Closer.
Sorry. First panel, be gentle.
Yeah.
Name's Adam, did most of the firmware work for the Swadge.
Yeah. Give it up for firmware, guys. I'm Dak. I was the project manager on the Swadge stuff.
Gillian, I did the physical design, so it turns out to be incredibly complicated of doing a little hexagon of plastic. And yeah, that was the main.
And lots of like assembly stuff. Very, very cool.
Oh man. When you see the jig that the guy in China uses, that's all Jillian's handiwork too. I'm Charles, and I did most of the electrical side and I guess the front end or back end. I don't know, one of the ends of the software.
The middle end.
Foundation. You laid the foundation. We built on top of it.
Okay.
Yeah, give it up. Give it up for the Swadge team. These three are geniuses, and I was kind of the guy who was like, I have a really cool idea. You want to make it happen?
Don't play down the
one
ideas,
more
guy.
huge round of applause because the Swadges this year are unbelievably cool. All right.
All right, time to run down some features. What do these things actually do?
All right, so I'm going to go over some features. Let's get this
yeah, we're going to get the camera up instead.
So if you're not a staff member, you probably have not gotten your Swadge yet.
Sorry.
And if you are a staff member, I would love for you to raise your hand if you already have a Swadge. Who here already has one? Awesome. Who here has one and it is like on hand right now? Sweet. Cool. Yeah. So these Swadges have 6 different modes, and we're just going to run through them real quick. First and foremost, there are 3 buttons on the Swadge. There's a button A, button B, and a mode button. The mode button is what's going to actually cycle through all 6 modes. So when you press it, it goes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then back to 1. It can be powered by 2 AA batteries or a micro USB connected to a battery bank. So you've got a lot of options there.
And there's a switch that'll switch between the 2. So if you have batteries in, you can turn it to USB to go off. If you have USB in, you can turn it to battery to go off. Don't recommend putting them both in the same time. Won't hurt. It's just too much power for you to handle.
It's true. All right, so let's check out some of these modes. So when you turn it on, it's going to automatically go into a mode called color chord. This is mode 1, and it's just the default. So anyone who has a Swadge right now, go ahead and turn it on. And yeah, let's hit these lights real quick.
And,
just so I can
hold
give you guys...
them up.
Do you mind if I'm the one? Yeah. Why don't you go through it?
Okay. Actually, I kind of want to record this part. So lights.
We're getting them.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah. All right, so
Hold them up.
hold them up. Ready? All right, lights, please.
Pretty please.
Wait, mode 5 is a flashlight.
Oh, you're skipping ahead.
Yeah, it works. Charles, do you want to go over the color chord features?
Sure, I'll go over color chord right now. So, color chord is a sound to light mapping, and the idea is it's chromatic. So, is it pointed? It's really kind of washed out. It's hard to see. But the idea is that instead of it just being like low, medium, and high being different colors, it's every single note in like the chromatic scale. So if I go E, that's kind of red. And if I go up a whole octave, E, that's kind of red. And the idea is that whenever you're listening to music or instruments or whatever, all of the different, like an E in every single octave actually builds on top of each other in order to build the colors, or every single note in all of the octaves up a chain all build on each other. So things that have a lot of overtones end up just making it so it's all the same color rather than confusing things. So that's one of the big things about color chord.
And So each mode on here actually has either sub-modes or additional features. And arguably the coolest aspect of color chord, which you may have seen on some of the Swadges, is something called rainbow color chord. This actually analyzes multiple tones at the same time and then displays the corresponding colors. So why don't you give me a beautiful note?
Oh, I see. You want to make a nice note that's clear, and then you make another nice note that's clear. Okay.
Yeah, ready? So you kind of get the idea. To run through this feature set, so like I said, when you turn it on, it's going to automatically go into single color chord mode. If you hit the button on the right, this is going to adjust the microphone sensitivity from low all the way to high. The button on the left is going to toggle between multicolor and single color. That's color chord, and that is all from this man's brain. So please give it up for the primary function of this year's Swadge, color chord. And by the way, bring your Swadges to concerts, because the idea is that whenever all the music's playing, all the Swadges are hearing the same thing, and so they're all going to correspond in the same way. And I'm really excited to see if that actually works. But the greatest aspect of this is there's no external connectivity needed. So you can take this home and play your piano. You can use your Swadge 100% at home the same way that you do at MAGFest, which is awesome, by the way. That was a big deal.
I do want to add one more point, a little clarity there. Actually, Will Mernan was the one who came up with the core DSP algorithm for it. So I don't know if anybody related to Will is here, but he totally has the credit for what actually lets you run color chord on the Swadge.
And I'll just add, I'm excited to see it working in the actual consoles. The synchronization worked great when we tested it at Charles's house. He turned on Beat Saber really loud, and we all held prototypes.
Yeah.
It worked great then.
It was very cool. All right, so that's mode 1. Now, mode 2. You excited?
I'm excited.
Oh, man, I'm excited too. Mode 2, I'll just give a brief introduction. I'm going to let Adam take it away. Mode 2 is a wireless multiplayer game called Reflector, where 2 people with Swadges can battle against each other. It's nuts! We have wireless games on these things.
All right, so I'm going to take the black one. You're going to take the blue one.
All right.
Right? Nice and easy. So hit the mode button, go to mode 2. When you see them blue like this, that means they're looking for another Swadge. They haven't found each other yet. You don't want to just battle random people. So you got to put them nice and close, and then they'll go white. Like this. Yeah, auto pairing. Then the game starts. And I'm going to lose because I'm not really paying much attention here. But what happens is you see an LED pattern. You got to click a button when it gets to the bottom. It's either going to come clockwise, counterclockwise, or bothwise. And you click the button on the left or the button on the right, depending. And if your timing is good, it gets faster for your opponent. If your timing is bad, it gets slower for your opponent. Dak's probably better at me at this. Yeah.
I've played way more of this than he has, and he's the creator.
He was the tester. Anyway, and you keep on going until you eventually mess up. I messed up there. And you see I've got 2 losses, he's got 2 wins, and it's best of 3. So I'll just speed this one up and botch it again.
Yeah, give it up for me.
Yep. And we got a champion. And yeah, it's simple, but there's a little bit of depth to it, so you get better, hopefully.
Yeah, it does rely on timing, and just as a note, in this mode 2, whenever it's pairing, if you hit the button on the right, it's going to cycle through different difficulties, okay? So blue is easy, green, medium, red, hard.
And this is difficulty for you. So if you want to play on hard and your opponent wants to play on easy, they're going to have a better day than you. But if you're playing like a 6-year-old kid and you want a little bit of handicap, you can do that.
Oh, God.
Are you just dual wielding now?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. The other thing you can do, if you don't have any friends, which is highly unlikely because you're at MAGFest, is do some single-player training. So if you click the A button when it's pairing, it'll just start playing, and well, I'm clearly not that good doing a presentation. But you play it, and then once it's done, it'll tell you how many rounds.
What your
you
score
did.
was.
Yeah, pretty much.
So check this out, just so there's sort of an explanation. If I lose, it's going to show my score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if it's 2 digits, it's just going to show the first digit and then the second digit. I think my high score is something like like 48 or something.
Come
so,
at him.
Yeah, like it's
high score is 13.
It gets really really fast, and it's super cool.
Now, moving right along, there's an incentive for playing this game and beating your friends, and that is mode 3.
But before we do that,
Oh.
please give it up to Adam. He single-handedly coded this game. We like had the idea of like, hey, can we include a game? And we really didn't pitch anything. And then one day he's just like, oh, I made this, and it's mind-blowing and it's unbelievably fun. It gets super competitive, and I will beat all of you.
You will. But anyway, moving along, right, so there's an incentive for playing the game. You're not just doing this for funsies, although it is pretty fun, and that's mode 3. You got this one?
Yeah, so mode 3 is something called light dance mode. And this is just going to display different light patterns that are pretty cool. The way that it works is the button on the right is going to cycle through different light patterns, while the button on the left adjusts the brightness. And there's like a low power mode, which will literally last days. It will.
The fewer LEDs are on, the less power it'll suck, as a
Yeah.
general rule of thumb. So when you get your Swadge, you're going to start off with 3 dances, the 3 that you saw. And if you keep on cycling, you're just going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. For every game, what?
No, go ahead.
Oh, you're just waving your finger at me.
I'm sorry.
For
I'm so excited.
For every game that you beat your friend at, or your enemy, or just a random person, you get another dance. So Dax now has a sweet rainbow. This one, I don't actually know.
That one's probably on lock because we've
yeah.
been
We've been testing with it a lot. Yeah, so I got the rainbow
but
too.
this one only has 4 at the moment because this is a fresh Swadge.
Yeah, say that 10 times.
Yeah, right. And so because I just beat him in a series, we unlocked a new light dance. This one, on the other hand, probably has a whole bunch of them unlocked.
Don't show them all off.
All right, fine. There is a huge incentive for battling other people, and
Yeah, see if you can get them all.
yeah, there's what, maybe about 20 or so? Yeah, so definitely try and find other people with Swadge, battle them. I'm just
Yeah.
going to put this out here for the people who are here. If you don't manage to get them all, just keep an eye on maybe our social media or something in the future if you don't have somebody to play with after the event, because we have a lot of hidden things. But that is mode 3. Yep. Those are light dances. Oh, and shout out to
Aaron Angert.
Yeah, Aaron.
Angert? His handle's Aiden Gert.
Yeah, he helped program a bunch
He
of
did
these
most of
light
them.
dances, and
He's on a flight somewhere.
They all turned out really really cool. I'm such a big fan of like the rainbow ones. But yeah, shout outs. Those are the light dances. That is mode 3.
On to mode 4.
Mode 4, easy peasy. This is a D6 roller. By hitting the button on the right, it's going to be a nice, slow, dramatic roll. Check that out. We got 4. It's going to roll. Bam. 1. Pretty cool. The button on the left is just a nice and fast roll if you just want to get it over with. 3, 5. I think you get the idea.
It's only a D6. If someone says they're rolling a D20 and they roll it, they're a liar.
It's true. Plus, they're going to have a really bad roll, so it's like, why?
Would not recommend.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is all of mode 4, D6. Now, let's go to mode 5. Mode 5, you may have already seen. This is flashlight mode, because that is something that is extremely useful, especially if your phone is dead.
Arcade area is dark. You drop stuff. It happens.
Yeah. So the button on the left is going to adjust the brightness, while the button on the right is going to enter strobe mode. I do not recommend this to people who are photosensitive to rapid blinking lights because it does go into a true strobe effect, which does like that like slow motion thing when it's like pitch black. It's really, really cool, but again, photosensitivity, we on our Swadge sheet, we have a photosensitive
It comes with a
warning.
manual.
It does. We actually have a manual. And that is that's mode 5.
That's mode 5.
Yeah, that's mode 5.
Right. Flashlight is white.
Flashlight's white, but if you unlock, I think it's the very last.
It's not the last. It's
one of-
towards the end.
Well, I'm not talking about the strobe. There is a way. There's a light dance where you can cycle through. It'll cycle through the colors, and then you hit the button again, and it'll freeze at that color. So you can actually get every color.
Yeah.
Finally, mode 6.
Bring it on home.
Oh my. No, we're not. Well, we'll maybe talk about that in a minute. So mode 6 is a little difficult to explain without a guitar here because it is an acoustic guitar tuner. Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, Charles, you want to talk about this one?
Do you want to hold it? Can you guys see the lights? Kind of.
Here,
okay.
I can sort of walk through the.
Okay. I'll be quiet.
You can take. So first off, I just want to say that Charles coded this, and Jillian coded this. I mean, a lot of people did. If you want to take it, but I've got.
No, I was going to go E.
It's not E.
Oh, I'm
so
not good
the way
at
that
E.
it works, is each LED corresponds to a string on a standard guitar. This is incredibly bright on there. So give me lights actually again. Thank you. So the top LED 1 is a low E, and it goes all the way around to high E.
This doesn't walk great with the tuner, but it kind of walks.
I think it needs to be like a lower,
Like an actual guitar.
The way that you actually tune this is when you see a blue light, that means that your string is flat. When you see a red light, that means your string is sharp. And whenever it is bright white, that means that it's in tune. Now, the craziest thing about this is you can actually tune all 6 strings at the same time by just open strumming your guitar, because each string is represented by a different LED. It's kind of crazy, it's kind of confusing, but it does work. And I think there's only one other product on the market that does this, and it's like $150 or something.
I think
so. This is pretty nuts that this is included on the Swadge. But it is only for an acoustic guitar because the tones are not only fixed, but we're listening for frequencies that are common with acoustic guitar strings.
It may or may not work very well or poorly with electric guitars.
But we've got you covered. So if you hit the button on the left, this is going to enter a chromatic tuner mode. Now, those of you familiar with music and even the basics of music theory, when you hit it once, the top LED is going to light up. This is now tuning a concert C. And the same rules apply on all of the LEDs. When it's blue, it's flat, red is sharp, and white is perfectly tuned. If you hit it again, it's going to go up by a half step. So now we're at C sharp. Then D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, and if you hit it a final time, it goes back to the acoustic guitar tuner. Now this is really cool because you can tune any instrument. I tuned my trumpet before playing it during Christmas with the Swadge. And it totally worked. It was really, really cool. And I'm super excited that we have this functionality. Shout outs to Kevin Lynn for the suggestion on the chromatic tuner. But yeah, I hope that kind of makes sense. It is a little bit confusing and you kind of have to mess with it. But this is mode 6. It's a standard guitar tuner on all 6 LEDs. And then again, when you cycle through, it's going to go up by a half step and go around again until it goes back to the guitar tuner. And those are all 6 modes of the 2019 MAGFest Swadge. But wait.
Yep. So those are the modes, but how did we get here? Also, for anyone raising their hands, we'll have Q&A at the end. So
Write down
Hold
the
on.
questions. Yeah.
we'll also have an email at the end if you don't get question answered, and I'll be hanging around for a little while. So yeah, do you want to talk about some of our initial design principles behind this guy?
Yeah. So, how many of you have received Swadges from previous years? I was in the same boat, and were always a complete technical marvel and a bit of a mystery to me. I didn't always know how it functioned, or if it would function outside of the event, or if it would function at the event. And not to throw shade, because the previous year Swadges were unbelievably cool. Hachi, stand up and show us the Magstock Swadge, which, by the way, is featuring color cord, which was the inspiration for this year's Swadge. So give it up for Hachi. So whenever I joined the Swadge team, I put together a list of sort of design principles, and I'll sort of just simply blow through them. First and foremost, I wanted all of the functionality of the Swadge that is used at MAGFest to be available after MAGFest, so that you weren't relying on our networks or other people or whatever. So everything on the Swadge is completely local. The second thing was I wanted every button to do something. Too many things like it's easy to figure something out if it has like a cause and effect, but if you press something and nothing happens, you don't really know if something's going on behind the scenes. And so with this Swadge, every button that you press will give you a deliberate response and a deliberate action. And if you want to just figure it out yourself, that's actually fairly reasonable. Or of course you can read the instructions or attend this.
Or at the camera's off, but if you flip your Swadge around, there's a URL.
For the first time ever.
Yeah. So you can go to that website. The manual's there. There's a demo video there, and we may put more stuff there afterwards. Who knows?
Finally, I think the last design principle was probably, sort of in the same vein. We had the UI. We wanted it to be really simplistic and kind of cohesive across the whole thing. So we have this sort of theme of 6. It's a hexagon, and we have 6 LEDs, and so we have 6 modes, and you get it. Another thing, there's a bunch of things. Another thing was how it's powered. A lot of people don't like the weight of the Swadge, and they don't even want to have it around their neck with 2 AA batteries. So we offer 2 AA batteries, or I guess it's not on. Or a USB power bank option, which is actually going to pump 5 volts through, so it's going to be even a little bit brighter than the normal 3 volts from the AA's. Other than that, and there are multiple ways to attach the Swadge. If you kind of take a look, I have mine on a belt. A lot of people have them on lanyards, and a lot of people are sort of making up their own ways to attach them.
But basically, each Swadge has 6 holes in it. We give you a whole bunch of zip ties. There's some recommended ways of doing it, but you can really go nuts.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that we do take feedback. So if you do not like some aspect of the way that we've designed it this year, please let us know.
There'll be an email at the end of the presentation. Please spam us.
I think that basically does it for the design principles.
Yeah, so we can talk a little bit about the hardware now if you want.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, Charles, this is you.
Hold on. I have the. Do you want to reload? Because I have 3 more slides.
You actually did it. All right. We're doing it live.
Wait, how did you just skip ahead? Oh, okay, I see. Got it.
Look at that. You put more stuff in.
Yes, it worked. Okay, so the first one was, I guess we don't really have any pictures, but if you guys want to hold one of these up under the thing and show that off real quick.
Killing me.
Oh, I didn't realize you can't just alt-tab.
I'll just hold it up.
Okay, that's good enough. So Swadges started, I guess it was 3 years ago, and it was when we were at Labs, and we were like, hey, Nick, I have an idea. Let's make circuit boards for Fest. And he's like, is that even possible now? And I'm like, sure, why not? And everything kind of came together at the last minute, and it was pretty terrible and kind of lame. And then the next year, it was like, we'll start a little bit earlier. And then things didn't even happen in time, so the Swadges weren't even present for Fest. If any of you guys remember Swadgegate last year. And then finally, we actually had things in time for the event, which was the Magstock Swadges, which Hachi has one right there. And it glows, it's neat, it's fun, except for the fact that 100% of them from the factory did not work. So that was, I guess, Swadgegate 2018B. So finally, this year, we actually got our act together. Well, okay, DAC got our act together and got us to actually start this 3 or 4 weeks earlier than we would have otherwise. And so if you want to go to the next slide. So this is this was Rev A. So this was kind of stuff that we put together. This is actually after the very first Rev, which we tried, which didn't work at all.
This was the very first Rev.
Yeah, that's Rev Dash. And that didn't work, so we got Rev A. We started testing it. It was fine. But if you'll notice, Rev A is a very different size than what your current Swadge is. And that was because I'm always panicked about, like, spending money. And guess what? Smaller circuit boards are cheaper. But Jillian really kind of said, no, we have to do this thing with the diffuser, and oh my gosh, I'm so glad we did. Because if you look at Hachi Swadge, if you want to stand up again, because I'm going to just keep doing this, it's very bright individual lights, but they're not really diffused. It doesn't really create like a nice wall of color anywhere near like how this year's Swadge does. So we ended up changing even the size and the design and the circuits and everything about these Swadges. Next slide. And we tried a whole bunch of different colors, and next slide. We, just so your guys are aware, every time you see one of these revs, it took us at like my basement hours to go put a whole bunch of them together, find the problems with them, and then go tweak it. So even Dak, who as far as I'm aware has no electrical engineering background, was over there assembling these
I made
Swadges.
this one.
And it works. Next slide. And so as you can see, we do have a lot of revs, and we even, so I didn't believe that the whole larger Swadge thing would work, so I didn't even bother like putting the parts on it initially before, like, it was like, okay, we'll slap some LEDs to a board and see what it looks like, and the answer was it looked amazing. So the next slide shows all of the revs that we had after we decided on the right size, before we finally had a rev that worked, and that was Rev H, and in fact there are two Rev H's, I think. And I don't even remember why. I think we found a problem with it after we ordered it before we got them. So that is...
It was when you moved the LED, the microphone hole.
Oh, yeah, the microphone holes, and we also had, if you guys notice, there is a SAO port, which is something a bunch of people, I'm not even going to say what it's actually out loud.
Crappy add-on port.
You can look it up online. It's a standard.
Yeah, it is actually a standard, and we follow the standard now after Rev H2, and so that was fine. One of the other things I guess I should talk about hardware-wise is that all of our designs for the hardware were all done in KiCad, which is an open-source design tool for circuit boards. So if you guys want to take the designs, they will be available for free for you to go take mod, do whatever you want with, and KiCad is a completely free tool that you can use to go do that.
The GitHub repo with all this stuff is currently private because we don't want you poking around our internals at event. You got to find out the Easter eggs on your own. But after event, it will be made public, and you can go nuts.
Yeah, and there are a lot of, well, there's some really cool Easter eggs.
Again, we're not talking about, that's not what we're here to talk about.
Yeah.
Is that all your stuff, Charles?
Yeah, if you can, like, I don't know if it's reasonable, but if you want to open up the Google Drive folder in another tab before the very, very end, I have another thing I dropped there, but not now. Okay.
Okay. All right, so let's pass the baton down the table, talk a little bit about that diffuser.
So I was walking primarily, let's see, is my mic on?
Yeah, you're good.
Real close. Get close.
So I was working on the physical design. That's another thing that we realized we needed to make more of a focus on. They've already talked a little bit about making it larger. Part of that also flowed in part from the fact that we're attaching this acrylic piece to it. And when we looked at making very small holes, very small areas of tape, it just falls off. I did a lot of durability testing. We literally would, some of these prototypes we put together, and was like, hey guys, this one's not coolant anyway, right? Okay, cool, I'm gonna tape some stuff on it and go outside and throw it at the parking lot and, see if it breaks. So
It broke.
It will, but we've made them a lot more durable. The acrylic actually protects that. The acrylic actually protects the LEDs. We had a lot of problems with the LEDs falling off of these when we used the bale board. So that was another reason we added the plastic piece. We also tried out LDPE. This is the stuff they make milk jugs out of. It's a very cheap plastic. It's very inexpensive. It's very durable. You can't laser cut it. It's squishy. You have to mill it or injection mold it, which turns out we're not at a size where that's economical. So we ended up going through acrylic and more acrylic and more. And then Dak here finds out that there are like 200 types of acrylic you can try, so he wants to try all of them. But we tried some patterns. Do you want to stick a few of these under the?
I just did.
We just ran through
Okay,
them.
cool. So yeah, I laser cut. Soon went out to remember at Nova Labs. I went out. I used the laser cutter. I cut out so many different test patterns. We tried them out. We eventually settled on, hey, the best one is the one that looks kind of like LDPE. But stays. Another reason we couldn't use the LDPE is it turns out, hey, whole thing, I didn't even know that plastic surface energy was a thing before I started this, but it turns out something that adhesive engineers are very aware of. Also, adhesive engineers are a thing. So most tape will not stick to this stuff, the LDPE. The acrylic, it glues much better. We found, we tested a bunch of tapes. We tested riveting it on. We started out thinking, hey, we'll rivet it. We ended up going with a specific 3M tape. So these things are pretty bonded on the production ones. If you want to take it off for whatever reason, you pretty much need to stick a laser blade under it. So that's a lot of what we went through on the physical side was just trying options, looking at them, getting some feedback, throwing them at concrete, seeing if they broke, putting them in my bag for a week and seeing if anything fell off. The only other durability issue we ran into, the LEDs, having the plastic addressed it very well. The microphone. On most of our prototypes, if you want to show one of them, the mics stick up a little bit. That's what you get when you just say, hey China, we're just putting a microphone. When we say, hey, we just tell the factory, put one, they just go out, they get a microphone that's the right size. They usually stick up a little bit. We found that they kept falling off the prototypes. So you'll see on the production ones, the microphone is completely flat to the board and on there very solidly. That was one where we found out what we needed to do is we picked out the part number and we gave them a specific part number. And the funny thing is, they actually had to order them from the U.S., didn't they?
Yeah, that was a little weird because they're like, oh no, there's production problem. Okay, what's the production problem? Because this is a thing that happens a lot. And they're like, oh, well, the LEDs have long lead time. Okay, why? And they're like, oh, well, we have to import them. I'm like, oh man. And this is like a theme with us, and so like we've always had a hard time going back and forth with China as far as like, can we use parts sourced locally in China? And a lot of the time the answer is yes, and it works out a lot better because usually the stuff they have is like the most standard run of the mill, but we just were not able to do that with the microphone, and it made it pretty, it definitely added some of that time to eat away at that extra schedule that we thought we had.
Yeah, we've moved the schedule up. The tentative next year schedule is more
February?
like, let's start in February. Let's start in January.
Yeah. When did we actually start last year?
So our first check-in in the repo was 4 months ago.
Yeah.
But we started before then with brainstorming. And
So we did this in like 4 or 5 months, which was pretty crazy.
it was a good clip.
Yeah.
So one other thing, I'll let Charles talk about it a little bit more, but do you want to talk a little bit more about working with China?
Real quick though,
you have that bullet?
I just want to mention that you didn't just cut out the test acrylic.
Oh, yeah.
You cut out every single acrylic donut for all 2,700 Swadges that are here at MAGFest. That was no small task. And should I?
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Give me this.
Fine.
So as you'll notice, let me get it. So the acrylic donuts are, they are a donut, and
I kept calling them donuts. I eventually got the entire team to start calling them donuts.
but there's clearly a lot of wasted acrylic here. But at MAGFest we waste nothing. And so there is an extraordinarily what's the word?
Rare?
Rare, special,
Unique.
exclusive. There we go. Exclusive piece of MAGFest swag that is only available to a very small select few people. And this is the MAGFest garbage coin.
This was
even
actually
got
a
the protective
fun little
label on it
technical
still.
challenge to put together because laser cutters, for those of you familiar with it, they like to do very clean geometric designs.
And this
Dak
is-
here comes up with something he scrawled on a piece of paper,
I
took a picture
literally
of his
drew-
phone camera and sent to me.
I drew this on a piece of notebook paper and then was like, hey, do this. And Jillian was like, done. And so that's how we got this amazing exclusive garbage coin, which also comes with a certificate of authenticity.
Oh, man.
It was,
We are all trash.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
They're actually worth -1 M points.
We debated actually pointing negative one
I will
endpoint
say-
on it, but decided that might be confusing for the actual endpoint people.
Yeah. I will say that anybody who happened to back the $200 barrel roller tier with the little, what are we legally allowed to call these?
Not Meebo?
Magbos
Yeah.
figures. You will, in fact, receive a MAGFest garbage coin with the certificate of authenticity.
All right, is
We
there
had
anything
to
else?
borrow the money from somewhere, and so this seemed like a reasonable way to cook the books.
All right, anything else to say on plastic, or can we roll on to firmware?
I'm good to move on to firmware.
All right, let's keep this train rolling. So, firmware doesn't have as many nice pictures because it's not quite as tactile, but just imagine we hunched over a computer for hours on end. We got some fun facts about firmware because firmware is fun. The firmware was based off the mag stock Swadge firmware. I'm not going to tell you to stand up again. You've all seen it before. Over the course of development, we had to migrate our SDK from 2.2.1 to 3.0. You think this thing wouldn't be simple? It is not. There were 331 total commits to our repo over 119 days, about 4 months. That's about 2.78 a day, so we were flying through these things. There were 5 overall contributors to firmware. The 4 of us that are sitting up here all had some hand in it, and then Aiden Gert, who is en route, unfortunately couldn't be up on the podium today. I used a program called CLock, which counts lines of code. There are slightly more than 10,000 lines of code running in each of these things, hopefully in perfect harmony. It should never crash unless it does, but that's your fault, not ours or something. I don't know. A lot of the firmware work that I did was setting up frameworks so that other people could contribute more easily. So I don't know who here is familiar with C. We use a lot of structs and function pointers to get system callbacks. It's pretty easy to snap in a mode, which is why we have 6 of them, easy peasy. There's a separate framework for all the LED animations, which is how we have all of those, also easy peasy. What I'm trying to say is working with me is easy peasy, so if you're interested in this kind of thing, hit me up later. We're always looking for more C gurus or C novices or just warm bodies.
We've also got some tentative plans to have a Swadge game jam at some point.
Yeah. TBD. You can see the GitHub repo is posted on the bottom. Again, it's private for now. You have to find out the secrets the hard way. After the event, it will be made public. So take a picture, scribble it down. I think we'll probably link it on the URL that's on the back of the Swadge, or you can email me, so not hard to find. And I'm proud to say that this is the most documented Swadge ever. I'm even going to show you some of that. So here's a connection diagram for how the 2 Swadges auto-negotiate when they're playing the game. Study it hard. No, I'm just kidding. And I'm not even going to go over this. If you really want to see it, I can show you later. But just the amount of forethought and documentation that went into this process. This is the state machine for the game. So all of the kind of tan nodes are the system callbacks for receiving a packet from the other Swadge or getting a button event. I don't know, blue, purple, I'm colorblind. Whatever the other one is, there are timer callbacks and all the other ones are regular functions. So everything's just working, hopefully.
By the way, don't press the mode button twice
okay.
quickly, because that's another thing that'll just break. Don't do that.
So it turns out that some of the GPIOs on the ESP8266 are used for boot configurations, and we happen to reuse that button for the mode switch. So if you press it too frequently and it seems to hang, that's a feature. Just turn it off and turn it on.
Ta-da!
Yeah, that's firmware.
Give it up for Adam, please. Firmware guru.
Okay, we've got a couple more slides and we're good on time. We just got a couple pictures from assembly too, because while China did the manufacture, they shipped us 22 boxes overseas incredibly quickly, and we had to spend 2 weekends taking them out, putting them together, flashing and putting them back. So these are some of the donuts that Jillian faithfully cut. That's not all of them. There were more, so many more. And those were the boxes that just showed up in MAGFest offices. In fact, we were talking like, do we want to pick them up from the airport or have them delivered? And the next message on chat was, they're here, which was wild. So thank you, Elecro. They were the manufacturers that we used. Super helpful. Just got to learn to communicate through the language barrier. And then for the actual flashing parties, we call them a party because any sort of organized unpaid labor is always a party. The general flow is you have to take a donut, peel off the protective coating, put double-sided tape on the Swadge, stick them together using the jig, which aligned everything beautifully. That's the piece in the middle.
I may have gone a little overboard on the jigs.
Over-engineering is the best engineering.
Yeah.
So tape them together, put them on the next jig, flash them with final firmware, because they actually did come with firmware flash from China just as a test, which I have to say, so in previous years we had Swadges that were 0% work from the factory. This year we had 100% work from the factory.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
So give it up for China.
We had about, out of our total order, we had, it's like less than 1%, maybe 0.5% that we walk that they found in China. So they said, hey, these are going to be a couple weeks, so we're not going to get, but we got them. They sent us ones that walked.
They're going to be
in our total assembly, we had 3 that had any kind of physical defect on our part. That was like an LED missing, and we probably broke all of those ourselves. So 100% quality control. Sending them the firmware. We get a few minutes here to talk about.
I actually added the videos to the end of the presentation, so we can skip through that.
Swap out your HDMI once. We can swap the HDMI once we do the thing.
No, I have it over on the presentation.
Oh, what?
We probably have about 10 minutes.
I understand.
Okay.
How much more do you have to talk about before?
Not much. It's basically, okay, hold on. We'll do.
I was going to do a quick demonstration of how to attach it.
It's on the manual.
This part right now, and
then
okay. So
box
next
up, box
slide,
up.
and then that's the thank you everybody for volunteering for it. I'm sorry I couldn't be there to help, but thank you everybody
we had
else.
A ton of volunteers meticulously assemble these things. So please give it up for the volunteers who helped hand assemble your Swadges.
So we're just going to show a couple seconds of each of these videos, but this is definitely, when you're dealing with China, it actually makes sense to go show them like every single detail and like point at it and everything else. And they actually go back and like study these videos, and I don't know, how many views does that video have?
1 view.
Okay, well, I don't really know how that works.
They are so good at studying on the first try.
Okay, so go to the next video. So we started to go, actually that one I might not have sent them. I think it might have been the next one is when we started. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. And the point was that they watch it and they look at it and they kind of get a hang for what to do, and then they go do it, which is kind of weird that you think that there's like a factory full of people that are now like taking these things and putting them in a jig and flashing it. At one point, Mike from the factory was like, "I'm very sorry, but we only had 1 jig," and I was like, "Oh yeah, we only gave them 1 jig." But it's like they had 2 people manning this jig 24/7 over a weekend in order to try to get the Swadges to us on time.
And they did.
It was pretty incredible. Okay, next one.
One of the amazing things about working with these small contract manufacturers in China is they will. There's no like, oh no, we don't want to do. It's like no. It's like you gave us what you want done. Cool, we're doing it.
Yeah,
they're wonderful that way. You've got to be there. You've got to be awake at 2 a.m. when it's the daytime for them and they have a question, because it'll hold up everything if you're not. But so long as you're there to get those 2 a.m. emails and hop on Skype with them and discuss something, it's wonderful.
Yeah, this was the first year I Skyped somebody in China, which was really cool. That was a lot of fun to kind of see what they're working with and everything else. Okay, the next video. Which one was that?
Yo!
I don't remember which video. Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is, I think, the one that China had to go back and watch a bunch, because this is where Jillian is showing them where all of the different things are, all of the different features with the that have to line up and everything else. So I think that this is the one that they did for assembly, and I think the others were just for quoting.
Yeah. We can just post all these videos on the Swadge website too.
Okay, and then the last video real quick. So about the Swadge party, I just thought that we needed to show the Swadge. So when you have more than one programmer, it turns out you can just tear through them. So thank you. Was it Claire? Was that Sullivan? Okay. Okay, I'm done. I have nothing else now.
All right. I think that about wraps up for.
I'm gonna do this real quick. I can do this.
Do it real quick.
All right. So give me this. First off, I wanted to, if it's not totally obvious yet, the theme for MAGFest this year is Star Fox, and of course we ended up creating original characters and an original team called the Sun Cats, which is featured on basically all of our merch and all kinds of cool stuff. But the inspiration for this was I play a lot of Smash Brothers, and I really like the reflector that Fox has. I'm one of those people, and he kind of has it on his belt. So that was my original pitch for the team was, can we make a Fox-like reflector that lights up and diffuses LEDs and looks cool like that, and give it up to the masterminds who actually saw this through. It's insane how much this does.
Does not actually reflect projectiles. Do not use it to reflect projectiles. Just dodge.
All right, and real quick, I'm going to go through how to attach this to your belt. So this requires 4 small zip ties and 1 large zip tie, which you'll be able to get at the merch booth or at stops. Step 1, take the small zip tie, thread it through the top hole through the front, and then the other top hole through the back. So you got this little guy. You're going to take a second zip tie and zip tie it together like that. So you have all this excess, right? And you're just going to trim that off real quick. So now you have this nice loop that's not going anywhere, just on the back. You're going to do the same thing with these bottom 2. So loop it through there, take the second zip tie, attach it like that, trim off the excess. And now you have these 2 sturdy loops. And finally, you're going to take the large zip tie, and you are going to thread it through over the battery and pull it so that it goes to maybe right about there. You're going to then fold it over and zip tie it through like that. You don't want to pull too tight. You want to leave enough room for a belt to fit through. And I know this looks a little janky, but it totally works. And that is how you attach it to a belt. Just fit your belt right through there. It's a little over-engineered, but hey, it works. And then the final second method, if you have a lanyard...
That could be our slogan.
Yeah, it's over-engineered, but it works. If you have a lanyard and just want to attach it to a lanyard, I've found that the simplest way is to take 1 small zip tie, fold it over about a centimeter, like that, and then you're going to actually attach it to itself, like so, until you have this small loop. You're going to trim off the excess, then you're going to take your Swadge and just kind of thread it through the hole like that. On the back, you've now got a little loop. You take your lanyard, which I have a bunch of these little loops sort of attached. Hold on. You take your lanyard, and you're just going to attach it to that loop, and it is going to actually be perfectly balanced. So there's a couple different ways, and then you'll see a lot of other people who have just figured out their own way to attach it.
Be
Super
creative.
cool. Yeah. These instructions are available on the website in picture form and possibly video form later, but now you know how to do it.
Okay, we've got a little time for Q&A. Sure. Oh, great.
Two walking microphones.
There's actually, one more thing I wanted to point out. Can you refresh that presentation?
Refresh the presentation.
Yeah, refresh the presentation.
Oh.
And then the very last slide, I added a thing to. Yeah, that one.
Oh, this one.
You guys think about like having to wait for shipping, and you're like, oh, it'll take a long time to ship from China. With the time shift, this was a total of 36 hours from when the factory gave it to DHL to when Nick Marinelli signed for it. So DHL can really deliver when it matters. Okay, that was it.
All right, Q&A time. Who's got the walking mics?
We will
All right,
refresh
Hachi,
this
go
like
ahead.
every 5 minutes.
How many elements?
3,
Yeah.
red, green, and blue.
They're RGBs.
Next.
Next question, raise your hand. You right there.
No,
Not
it does
yet.
have-
Did Star Fox have Mode 7 graphics? I don't think it did, so no. But it does feature the Super FX chip. Yeah.
Sure.
Go ahead.
No day one patches. We got it right the first time.
I did actually pitch that though, so that you could
shut
go
it down
to,
real fast.
so that you could go to Makerspace and download free DLC. But
Then Adam
that was
here was
a
like,
nightmare.
no, we're going to do a code freeze. We're going to actually QA it before the fest this time. It's going to walk out of the box.
I drove Adam crazy because he had all of these like code freeze dates, and I was like, okay, but like one more thing. Go
I could
ahead.
add a guitar tunnel.
That's a great question.
All right, so there are 3 kinds of Swadges.
Yeah.
Red, black, and blue. If you're a supporter, you got a black one. If you're staff, you got a red one. If you're not supporter or staff, you can go down to merch and buy a blue one. Limited quantities, so again, get them while they're hot.
They are very limited quantities, and they are, I believe, $29 total, which is, I think it's pretty reasonable. And they will almost certainly sell out.
Yep, that's like $5 a mode.
Will you reveal the markup and/or are they connected to infrastructure at all?
Absolutely not.
For both?
Wait, so markup and what's the second one?
Are they connected to Wi-Fi infrastructure for anything?
No,
No,
they're only peer-to-peer.
They're only peer-to-peer.
Cool.
Question.
Was there supposed to be a hidden mode 7, and did the Nintendo lawyers prevent you from doing so?
We can't talk about that legally. Question.
I'm going to hey, if you go looking, there are hidden things in this Swadge stuff.
There are a lot of.
Go find them.
Yeah.
So the radio we use is the ESP8266 Wi-Fi chip, but we're actually using a mode called ESP Now, which uses the same band as Wi-Fi, but it's not Wi-Fi. It's its own protocol.
Go ahead.
Hi. I have one of the originals, Swadges.
Nice.
Does it work for anything here or like any of the other Swadges? Do they communicate at all? Or can you hack it to do that after the fact?
So some of the components are similar. Like it is still using the same ESP chip, but they are in no way connected to each other. But hey, Adam, I got a great idea for next year.
Go away. Not interested.
Next question. Oh, that's a great question.
So
I'm
you
going to
can-
demonstrate. Can I get the?
Sure.
thing? So I'll demonstrate this with the garbage coin. The way that I found is actually easiest is to take your nail and just scrape it along an edge until you just rip a little piece off, and then it's just going to peel off super easily. Yeah, just like that.
So the way we did it in
Also,
assembly
yeah.
was with duct tape. If you put a little bit of duct tape on it to make a tab, it'll pull off there too. Way in the back.
How did you guys learn how to do all this? Like, did you have like EE or software experience?
Yeah, I
beforehand, or
went to
what?
college for 4 years. I got a degree in electrical computer engineering and kind of figured out the rest, but there wasn't that much after that.
I just like to push buttons on things, and I just kind of smashed plastic together until it was in the right shape. Also, I like to play with lasers.
Go ahead, you.
Yeah, so if you go to the website that's printed on the back of the Swadges.
Pull that up right now.
Oh, I guess I can. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, it is swadge.com/super 2019. And there are images of the printed instructions as well as a video that I made last night at like 3:30 a.m. Yeah.
Yep. Most documented Swadge ever.
Yeah.
Derek.
For the what? No.
No.
No longer supported.
Father him.
What's that? Possibly. Hit me up later.
Everyone has a price.
All right. A couple final questions. Anybody?
Oh, let me put up that email address so that you all know
Go
how to
ahead.
bother me afterwards.
Yeah, we're gonna link those. We're gonna link those to the Swadge website.
Yeah, there's nothing proprietary in there. So, I mean, by proprietary, I mean nothing's proprietary here, but
Are those
there's nothing
just-
sensitive.
Are those listed just on your channel?
They
or-
are completely unlisted right now.
Okay. Yeah, we'll provide links for those.
You can pull them right out of the presentation, drop
yeah.
them on the website. Circuit boards at magfest.org. Get involved.
Yeah. Always looking for more nerds to do cool things.
What's Twitter?
Any final questions? Awesome. Thank you guys so much for attending, and thank you guys for sticking around until the very end. I really, really hope that you enjoy all the Swadge stuff. These guys did a phenomenal job. One more enormous round of applause for everybody involved in this. Thank you guys so much.
And thanks, Dak, for driving this whole thing.
All right.
Thanks.
Go do fun things.